We are going to continue the discussion of Tattva-sandarbha of Srila Swami. We are in the beginning of his sandarbhas, Tattva-sandarbha. We have covered the we have covered epistemology, nature of knowing and what's worth knowing, valid Prameya for knowing about the self, according to the tradition that the Swami represents. He makes a valid case that this tradition is so well represented in Scripture that it should be accepted above all others. We're continuing now to the second section of Tattva-sandarbha, dealing with Prameya. We know what is a valid method of knowing. Swami has made his case quite forcefully that of all Scripture that is available to mankind, one specific Purana stands out, shines amongst all the Puranas. It is the short commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which the Vedanta Sutra gives the common man the ability to have some insights into what the Vedas are presenting. The Vedas are pretty cryptic, so therefore good guidance is required to understand their message. So there's the Vedanta Sutra to bring it, make it more readily available. Even that is very difficult. And in consideration of Kali Yuga and consideration of even writing down the Vedas, Srila Vyasa also composed and presented what is considered the fifth Veda, Itihasa, the Mahabharata. We all understood like a good jar. So now society, some story, that story. So, and in the center of this wonderful presentation, we have the secret entrance into spiritual life in the form of Bhagavat Gita. It's like a gem written hundreds of thousands of verses. But in addition to this, mature commentary on the Vedanta Sutra is necessary even to make the Vedanta Sutra understandable for us. All the major sampradayas, one of the characteristics of a sampradaya is a commentary on the Sutra. Now, following in the wake of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the Supreme Lord himself, in his advent, his followers didn't feel there was much necessity. So it was clear to them that Srimad Bhagavatam filled the bill. It provided the best commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Later, due to social pressure, social religious pressure of the day, the Gaudiyas did request one amongst them to write a commentary just on the Vedanta Sutra itself. And that was Baladev Bhusha, who himself, though requested, felt worthy. He fitted himself up to the task, shelter of the deity and seeking to attention. And his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, chief of the Govinda Bhasha, so, our valid Prameya, Jesus made his case in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is the valid Prameya for what is the subject of the Bhagavatam. And now that is the second part of this Tattva-sandarbha, is introducing us to what is the subject that's worth knowing, and what is the methodology, what is our relationship with that subject, first of all, and what is the methodology that can give us a complete entrance into the subject. So as Jiva has already pointed out, that the Bhagavatam is full of information about the nature of ourself, and the nature of being, and the nature of the Supreme Self, and full of an explanation of that spiritual substance. And full of information about the practice of bhakti. There's so many stories there. But Jiva Goswami, so he could have pulled verses from anywhere in the Bhagavatam to make his point. He stopped there. He wanted to introduce us to what is the nature of real spirituality. Here's scripture, and scripture will give you some indication, knowledge about the self, about your being, about the Supreme Self, about your environment. But really, what is of significance in spiritual life is revelation. Although there is a Vaidhi approach, really the best approach is realization itself. So therefore, at the very beginning of this second section of his Tattva-sandarbha, he emphasizes realization through revelation. Beginning first with Sukadeva Goswami, who was the epitome of human accomplishment. Sukadeva Goswami, he made it. He crossed beyond birth and death. He was a Jiva Mukta. Nothing in the world could drag him back into samsara or activities which would prolong the suffering in this material realm. So he was liberated. Eyes open, samadhi. He was walking around the world, but he wasn't of the world. So Jiva Goswami begins by pointing out what was the nature of Sukadeva Goswami. That even though he was beyond the world and beyond anything worldly, when he heard the Bhagavatam, immediately he was drawn. Nothing of the world could attract him. Nothing of this material realm could pull him from his eyes open samadhi. But when he heard verses from the Bhagavatam, that pulled him to a higher revelation in spiritual realization. So Jiva starts first with a verse explaining that fact. Now tonight we go on starting. We're going to continue what is the revelation of Srila Vyasa. So we have a glimpse into the fact that the Bhagavatam was so powerful that it could pull the being, the consciousness, the awareness, the ecstatic emotion created by the Bhagavatam exceeded the pleasures of Brahman realization, so much so that Sukadeva, who was already liberated within his body, was drawn to a higher spiritual revelation simply by the sound vibration of the Bhagavatam. Now we go on to show that Sukadeva Goswami, the speaker of the Bhagavatam, he was in perfect harmony, revelation-wise, with the author of the Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasa. And we touched upon a little fancy thing that commentators, presenters, and workers in the world do. But they have a lot of tasks. They'll always do the simplest of things. So the analogy is there of the metallurgist. He has on his cube of work to do, a needle and a kettle. He's going to get the needle done first. So the revelation of Sukadeva was quite simple. He was drawn to it. And an explanation of the revelation of Srila Vyasadeva, which you would naturally think his revelation came before Sukadeva's. And his revelation came from the practice of bhakti itself. But I think why? He was following the direction of a bhakti. The Supreme playing the part of the great sage, and Narada had given him instruction. So it's the highlight of the son of his life is following that direction. That's the epitome of their devotional activity. So Sukadeva's revelation came about by the practice of bhakti. Narada said, you're not content in your service to humanity. You've done all this. You've seen that humanity's in quite a jam here. The Yuga is progressing. We also know this written in Bhagavatam after Krishna's departure, before Maharaj Parikshit's constructed public. We've compiled it all, but it's discontent. If we have discontent in our spiritual life, in our service, then we take shelter someone that can assist us, or who knows what found will be good. So we should never be reluctant to take good advice from the Sadhus. So this revelation of Srila Vyasadeva is discussed in the 7th chapter of the first canto, 4 verses, and then a 5th. So we'll go over those verses again quickly. Verses. I will read the English. The first verse is, in his pure heart, which was established in perfect fixity through the yoga of unalloyed devotion, he saw the original complete person, Purusham Purnam, along with his extrinsic potency, Maya, which is apart from and yet supported by him. Now, this verse reads as follows. And we're replacing commentary with Goswami. First reviewing this verse. Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranagitena Apashya Purusham Purnam Machata Apashraya. So we read the English. That in his pure heart, which is established in the fixity of yoga, unalloyed devotion, he saw the original complete person. So this is his revelation. In samadhi, he saw the Supreme. Imagine. So this was Vyasadeva's samadhi. He was told by his guru, concentrate on the Supreme and come to some fuller understanding of the nature of him so that you can present this as the topmost for suffering humanity. Purusham Purnam, along with his extrinsic potency, Maya. So he said not only saw Krishna, but he also saw Krishna's external potency, the Maya Shakti, which was apart and yet supported by him. So we've begun to discuss this. We're going to continue. So when we look at this Purusham Purnam, we take the primary meaning, the Supreme Purusha. And when we take this primary meaning, called the Mukhya Vritti, when we look and take this in its primary meaning, we're talking not only about the Supreme Personality, but we're talking about the Supreme Personality with all of his parts and parcels and all of his chakras. That's the meaning of that term within the verse. It's relaying Vyasadev's revelation. So Jiva Goswami is bringing this out. But when we hear this verse and we see it, we see that this is the context in which it's being presented. Now this is, you have to understand that this is the significance of the Sandarbhas. Through the Sandarbhas, we're given an insight into how Shastra is to be properly viewed. And the Sandarbhas are giving us Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan according to the Bhagavat by highlighting the specific verses and explaining the manner in which these conclusions lead to the highest and deepest understanding of our spiritual nature of the Supreme, the nature of the Supreme's energies, all these relationships, Sambandha Gyan, going forward into Abhideya. How can we, who are influenced by this external potency, even though we are superior to it in potency, how can we effectuate a change, a wholesale change in consciousness that leads to a revelation like that experienced both by the author of the Bhagavatam and by the speaker of the Bhagavatam? So let us start there. If we're going to look to the Bhagavatam, let's look to what is the best manner in which we approach the Bhagavatam and for what objective. And it's important we approach the Bhagavatam with the objective of following in the footsteps of its author and its speaker, and experiencing the Supreme fully by a wholesale turning of our consciousness towards dasa. We're looking for revelation. If we want simple religious regulation, there's thousands of scriptures out there full of religious regulations. And the religionists of the world will argue with amongst one another, saying that their regulation and their approach and their understanding is the best. And what we're saying is, what Jiva is saying to us is, no. Those understandings may be good to bring one to a higher plane of material existence, but you want to engage your consciousness, your understanding, your wholesale spiritual endeavor. You want to place that into a methodology that results in spiritual realization, in revelation, in seeing the Supreme face to face. Om Purnamadaha. The Supreme is perfect and complete, but we want to see him in his complete, perfect perfection. He needs to remove not only his Maya Shakti, but all these, anything that's standing in the way, this effulgence of his, also needs to be removed. So, this Mukhya-Vritti approach to this first verse explaining Vyasadev's revelation, Purusham Purnam, it's referring to Chandra, Dulal, Krishna's Bhagavat. All, not only the Supreme, but all his works and persons. Paramatma, in these verses, Paramatma and Brahman, they're not brought up. For the simple reason that when we talk about Purusham, Purnam, they're included. So Jiva brings that out in his Anucheta, 30th Anucheta. Now, he also brings out, again, remember, Jiva's told us that he's going to use as support, as additional command, to the Bhagavatam verses what? Specific. He said specifically, I'm going to use the commentary on those verses of the Bhagavatam that was given by Sridhar Swami, a great commentary. So here, in going further in this Anucheta, in this section explaining the revelation of the Vasudeva, he goes on to draw from Sridhar Swami's commentary. And in Sridhar Swami's commentary, he brings up the term nirupadi, that the Supreme Lord is without any limiting adjunct. Upadi. Now, are we familiar with this term, upadi? Designation. And how does it work? What's the easiest way to understand? If you have a clear crystal, if you put that clear crystal close to anything of color, what does the crystal do? It takes on that color. So you would think it's a red crystal, or it's a blue crystal, it's a green crystal, it's a white crystal. But it's true, it's a clear crystal. So when we look at upadi, what Sridhar Swami is saying here is when we look to this terminology, Purusham Purnam, we should see that there is no upadi there. The Lord is not in any way being limited, but we're talking about the unlimited aspect of the Supreme when we use this terminology. Upadi can be used in a limiting way for also the jiva. And we'll discuss that a little bit, especially when we discuss in the context of these verses the misconceptions of the Dvaitins. So again, Sridhar Swami drawing from his commentary, we see this verse from the Bhagavatam explaining the Vyasadeva's revelation. Sridhar's commentary is saying, look at this, we're talking about Supreme without any limiting ends. Nothing is coloring. Nothing should color our understanding of what was the revelation. It was perfect, it was complete, it was total. It included all the Lord, all of his various manifestations, all of his amsas, all of his parts and parcels, all of his shaktis, without them. So we don't know what also comes out here is when you even look at the Atma itself, Jiva. What's the body to the Jiva? It's the body. So it's a limiting. We are associating with matter, and we're taking that to be ourselves. But really, we are not matter. So it's a nice concept to think of the crystal. That we put ourselves in a situation, we take on the nature of the circumstance in which we're placed, it colors our existence. colors our mentality. And it's important in our spiritual life to always remain free of these limits to a full understanding of what is our spiritual nature. We understand our conditioned nature, but we also understand our true nature. So, all this leads to the conclusion of Srila Jiva Goswami. Sambandha Tattva Srila Vyasa Dev is Purusham Purna, Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So, we're established in the Sambandha Tattva. What is the subject of his revelation? Spirit. So all these verses, they clearly show the samadhi of Srila Vyasadeva is the self-disclosure of the Supreme. This is the nature of spiritual revelation. Consciousness is completely clear when the revelation is descending. There's nothing that from the, if we look at Srila Vyasadeva, it's the sage which he is portraying in this particular Leela, composing, writing down, suffering humanity all the way. We see that the revelation is coming to him of Sambandha, Abhideya. These 4 verses are laying it. Let's proceed. I'm in chain of 31. I'll take a small right here.
I was just curious if his revelation he saw Krishna in all Shakti so
that will become clear. Because you have to understand he had a service to perform. So the next 3 verses are going to bring out the fact that he saw not only the Supreme, but he also saw the Supreme's external potency and the plight of the jivas. Thus, seeing completely in samadhi the revelation of what is the nature of the subject, sambandha, what is the nature of abhideya, the curative practice by which the suffering humanity can attain the goal, prayoja, of complete and total revelation in the subject. So his revelation was what? In relationship to his service. That was his desire. The intent of his samadhi. He entered samadhi to that end, to attain his goal. So the sankalpa, the intent of his samadhi was to fulfill that need in his heart that was not fulfilled simply by writing down all the scriptures. He wasn't content. Therefore, his spiritual master said, if you're looking for contentment in this service, Marta says, then you need to enter samadhi and see the complete picture. When you see the complete picture, then your service will be infused. So now, out of chapter 31, Jiva Goswami goes forward. And the first thing he brings out is, there's another reading of that verse. Let me explain that. And explain why it points, even if we were to take this variant reading of the Bhagavatam verse, the first verse regarding Vyasadev's samadhi, it still means the same thing. So first, what's the variant reading? Purnam is Purvam. So perfect and complete becomes what? Purusham Purvam. The oldest. Purva. Purva Acharyas Purvam. The original. So the primeval, also another translation. So Jiva Goswami first says, even though there is a variant reading to this particular Bhagavatam verse, and there are in some Bhagavatam verses variant readings, some verses are missing from some. Why? Because that's the nature of the tradition. How was this Bhagavatam passed before the time of Vyasadeva? It was all oral reception from master to student. There was no writing it down. So if the Guru instead of said, Purusham Purnam, he said Purusham Purnam, Purvam. It's the same meaning. Of course, we're talking about Jiva Goswami, how many variant readings or writings, because how were these Bhagavatams, these writings of Srimati Vyasadeva passed forward generation to generation in that 5,000 year period between the departure of Lord Krishna, the writing down of Srimati Vyasadeva, and now we have up to the time of Jiva Goswami, and even in his time, was there a printing press yet? Coming soon. It still wasn't there. Yeah. Sorry. So anyway, but still, the point was, there could be a there. Somebody wrote a word. Oh, I thought it was poured off. Poured off. Oh. He was saying, whichever one you take, whatever your Bhagavatam says, this verse means the same thing. That's the point of wisdom. That's the nature of the bodies that are reconcilers. If they're true godless, then they reconcile. They understand Shastra Yukta. They understand the meaning of the text. And they explain the text according to the inner meaning that's come by what? By revelation. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami's telling us as sadhakas what? He says, if you are going to take spiritual initiation, take initiation from the Uttama Adhikari, who has the best qualification to give you the inner meaning so that your practice will be fully nourished. You can take from lesser if that's all that's available. We take all the help we can get from wherever we can get it. And sometimes the decision is wrong. But then we correct ourselves. Through this process of spiritual revelation and realization is what acceptance and illumination. Accept deeper and deeper understandings. So what in the beginning gives us some little foothold, later may just be dismissed. Misconception. It's good enough to pull me in as I have a certain religious orientation. It made me think that I'm here because I was there. So many things to be there. And the Guru may draw from so many different aspects of the social and social religious environment of the student in order to fix them thoroughly, only to eliminate what brought them in later as their personal advancement grows. As they develop more qualification themselves, then he can reveal to them more of his qualification through his understanding. So Jesus makes the point, these are the same. So it's nothing to worry about here. You recognize this. Same meaning. He mentions the self-endowed intrinsic potencies of the Supreme Bhagavat, say Bhagavat. Purusham, all strength, wealth, knowledge, beauty, renunciation, pain, and that when we speak of Bhagavan, we also speak of Bhagavan who is not free of his inherent potencies, which are the Sri Shakti. But something, the explanation is always also there. These potencies, which constitute Bhagavan's Prabhu, his intrinsic nature, also take personal forms. That's a unique characteristic of his potencies. It's hard for us to conceive of it, but if we look even to the history of different religious traditions in the world, and especially to the Hindu tradition, which is based on the Veda, then this personal form for potencies is even seen, even like Native Americans. Sun God, light. Especially in the days with so many demigods. So these Shaktis, even within the material world, have personal representation. Personal. So this is a unique characteristic that also is there. Supreme, the transcendental God, where it's all just spiritual substance. So when we talk about being, we also talk about that potency of Krishna also be in a form. Sunday, holiday. So, thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. Thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. Jiva first brings out the point that we can see from this verse, or along in the verse, that the Maya Shakti is under the complete control of the Supreme. So then we come to the question. All right, we have the supreme potency, the supreme absolute truth, Maya Bhagavan, Rusham, Purnam, Purvam. We have that manifestation of the supreme. We have the Maya Shakti under his complete control. And we have the Jiva Shakti. Now the Maya Shakti is inert. It's external. It is not its nature is not the nature of consciousness. It's matter. And then we talk of the Jiva Shakti, which is conscious. So the question becomes, how can this Maya Shakti, which is what? It's not of the nature of the Supreme. In the verse, what does it say? External. It's external energy. We have this external potency, then we have this marginal potency, which is of his nature, the Jiva Shakti. It has consciousness. So one would naturally question, how can this conscious energy be overtaken by an unconscious energy? So Jiva Goswami points out there's two reasons for this. First reason is this Jiva Shakti is infinitesimal. You can't measure it. We'll give you a clue here. We'll say it's 1/10,000th the tip of the hair. That'll give you a starting point of understanding how infinitesimal this potency. It is a conscious potency, but it is very, very, very small. That's one reason. That an inert potency can cover. It's its size. The other thing is Maya, this illusory potency without consciousness. I mean, it doesn't have control or administrative. It does have both. But it works outside of the rules. These are the two reasons Jiva Goswami gives us. And as we proceed in the Tattva-sandarbha, he will fully elaborate this for us. That the Maya Shakti works, not in a logical way. Because if it worked logically, the Jiva wouldn't be programmed. He supports this conclusion by quoting a verse from the conversation of Maitreya Muni with Vidura. During that conversation, Maitreya says to Vidura, this Maya, which cannot be understood by logic, belonging to the Supreme Lord, but not his Swarup, is the cause of deprivation and ignorance for the Jiva, who has the possibility for realizing the form, knowledge, and bliss. So, the Guru is going to Maitreya for enlightenment. This is part of the instruction he received. He's told Maya doesn't work according to logic. It can't be understood with logic. It does work logically, but you can't try to acquire full knowledge of it through the application of the logic of the world. It belongs to the Supreme Lord, the Maya, but it's not of his spiritual nature. But it's a cause of deprivation and ignorance for the Jiva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses the analogy of the sun. That the sun can create a cloud and shield us from its own illumination. So there's more to the Samacheda. Quite long to explain second very few verses. Any questions, comments? Yes.
I guess I never thought for some kind of a knowledge doesn't have consciousness.
There's personification, and it works under my shade of property. Pure energy is working under my direction. But itself, that energy, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, all these comprised by separated material energy. None of those have consciousness.
The mind doesn't have consciousness.
We use the mind. We illuminate the mind. We illuminate. Without the soul, there is no thinking or consciousness. The mind is not aware of anything unless the conscious Jiva Shakti is within the body. Similarly, the entire of the material cosmos that sits what? In an unmanifest form, the God. Before the modes of material nature are activated by the consciousness of the Supreme, there's no action. Jiva is going to explain this a lot more fully throughout the rest of the first four sandarbhas. Because in these sandarbhas, Tattva, Bhagavat, Paramatma, and Krishna Sandarbha, he's going to deal fully with Sambandha Jnana. When we are done with the first four sandarbhas, we're going to understand what is the nature of Krishna and all of his energies, according to the conclusions of the Bhagavatam. Everything that he's going to teach us in these sandarbhas is going to be based on one primary Praman. I'll draw from the Vishnu Purana, the Bhagavad Purana, for some support. But the primary, and he told us when he finished the first part on the evidence, from now on, when we're discussing knowledge, the object of knowledge, we're going to be basing this primarily on Srimad Bhagavatam. This is our primary Praman. So this is the foundational understanding that makes spiritual life just, it's exciting to understand all of the Lord and all of his energies. Because then when we hear the sadhus talk of the internal potency and those relationships, we know all the fact, we have some appreciation for what is really God. What is God? It's a concept at this point. But here, oh yeah, it's much more. It has all the Supreme has so many potencies. So that's what Jesus did with these. Why would he go to so much trouble to bring us into this understanding of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayoja, according to the conclusions of the Bhagavatam? Then when you read the Bhagavatam, would you have drawn from the discussion between Maitreya and Vidura this one little stanza, 3 or 4 words, that said Maya cannot be understood with your logic? I've read the Bhagavatam many times. That never came out to me. That's what the sadhu does. That's what Jiva's doing. Learn how to look at the scriptures with spiritual eyes. It's a person This is what's going on here. You just started to pull us into Bhagavat, pulling us in to the revelation. It's not pulling us into the regulation, the religious dogma. No, the Bhagavatam has so much more to offer us than that. It can tell you about hell, it can tell you about heaven, it can tell you about sacrifices. But that's not what the Bhagavatam is about at all. It's about realizing Krishna, experiencing and understanding all of his potencies, how they work. So here in the very beginning, Jesus saying, look at the revelation of the Yas. He went into Samadhi and he saw the Supreme because he entered into this, and this is the result of our sincere endeavor in devotional service. The Guru will say, now you want to accomplish this here. In the beginning, there's some simple thing. He also had a bigger task, but he was qualified. This Guru, no, you can enter this stuff. You can enter into Samadhi. Do it. Everything you want to know, all that you feel lacking in your heart will come to you if you simply enter your heart and sit there and listen.
I don't even get the beginning kind of said Krishna can have internal and external. And there's something that's intrinsic and external. Like if everything comes from Krishna,
Yes.
how is what's out there not something else?
Because yes, this is going to come out in a very, very profound way. Because he has contradictory potencies. Jiva's going to explain that this is the nature of the Supreme. So the fact that he has internal potencies, that was, yes, and those potencies can appear with our mundane logic to work what? In a contradictory fashion. Yes, all that will be brought out. In this Tattva-sandarbha. So, what do you see?